What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MMB Performance Podcast. I got to say, I'm really, really excited today for today's guest. I got Billy Richards here with me and someone I've been following a little bit, kind of like the previous guests I've found on Instagram through the Spartan community, through the OCR community. And if you know anything, the people I like to talk to, they got mental toughness, they have grit, very, very focused on just being the best person they can physically, mentally, and finding what their limits are. And I think that's what's cool about the people we've talked to, and I think you're gonna love a lot of stuff about Billy. So, Billy, welcome to the podcast, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. And I'm gonna give you a little read through. I know you got a lot of things you've accomplished, but I want to give everybody that listens a little brief kind of estimate of some of the stuff you've accomplished. And talking today, like going into this, I have a couple of friends I was running with yesterday. I'm like, dude, you gotta hear this. Like, number one, huge respect, ex-Marine veteran, like tons of respect. And then you look at the list of accomplishments from a physical standpoint. I have over 600 races carrying the American flag. Any of these events you go to, Spartans and stuff, if you see the dude with the flag, Billy's there running these races, carrying the flag, raising money, doing all this amazing stuff. On top of that, 45 of these races, he's done 100 miles. And we'll tap in. I have questions with you. I know a huge amount of them in a year. 70 trifectas, broke the trifecta record in a year, which is incredible. It's basically every weekend you're putting in insane numbers. 2014 team death race, which we can dive into more of that. And the fact that you've done all this and how much you've accelerated the growth of these is insane, man. It's amazing. I love it. So I think it's so cool you've accomplished all this. Kind of going back now, if you bring yourself back to maybe teenage you, high school you, what did you always want to go to be a Marine? How did that all start? And then we'll kind of dive into like when it just kind of took the next level from the endurance stuff.
All right, so getting back into things though, like before the age of 13, I was always, I was pretty much like a video gamer. Like I played like some sports here and there. I mean, the only organized thing I did was baseball, but like outside of that, like a lot of video games, stuff like that. And then somewhere along the lines when my parents divorced when I was 13, my dad ended up getting custody of me, and like I was always, I had a late birthday, so I was like a December baby. So like I was always like the youngest one, and that was like shorter than everyone else. I was like kind of stocky and everything. So I got pushed around and I got picked on a lot though. So I was always like big into like action movies and like watching like pro wrestling as a kid. And I saw these guys that were like larger than life and everything though, and I'm like, you know what, I want to be like that. I was like a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan growing up. You know, like like I grew up like in that whole like WWF Attitude Era. So like
Yeah.
Steve Austin, like when all those guys. Yeah, I haven't watched anything recently, so I don't know what's going on. But like that's kind of like the era I grew up in. So one day my uncle brought over a bunch of weights and everything though, and we put them in the garage, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I just started like reading books and stuff. This was about 1995, 1996. So I just started reading books and kind of figuring things out on the fly. And then for my 14th birthday, it was, I'm in New York, so it gets colder in the winter. So like we didn't have good ventilation in the garage, so I started getting these tension headaches. So my dad decided to get me a gym membership for my birthday over at Bally's, and I just never looked back. Like every day after school, that's where I went. So it kind of changed. I went from like, I mean, I still at that time I still kind of like played video games, and I never missed like a episode of Monday Night Raw when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that's kind of like when I got into like working out and everything. And after I graduated from high school, I didn't really kind of know where I was going. I just knew I'd like to do like physical stuff and everything. So, I figured I'd go into the military, and I got to the point though. I was, like, because back in like the '90s, it was kind of like the no pain, no gain era. Like you just trained to failure all the time. So I figured to myself, if I'm gonna go to boot camp, I might as well go to the hardest one. So I picked the Marine Corps. And then, I was like, all right, I might as well do the hardest thing they have to offer though. So I tried to put in for force recon, but they gave me infantry.
Okay.
So, that's pretty much my story on like how I got into the Marine Corps. I really didn't know where I was going, and I just needed like a sense of direction. So after the Marine Corps, I had a 6-year break in service, and I was I was supposed to be a police officer, and it didn't work out. I got a random disqualification. They never exactly gave me a reason. It was probably at the time they were kind of harsh on their tattoo policies, and the sleeves I got now, I pretty much got them while I was still in the Marine Corps. So I got a DQ. So I'm at the gym. I'm sitting there with a criminal justice degree I can't really use, and I'm kind of looking at how like the trainers are training people and everything though, and I'm like, these guys, they're not really that great. I could do a better job at this. So I had a friend there that was a trainer, so he introduced me to the manager, and then the gym I started working out at, I became a trainer there, and then I was a trainer there for about a year. Then I crossed over to Gold's Gym for a little while, and then I started making these workout themed videos on YouTube and everything. It was actually a whole project I put together. Hence my email, Project Billy.
Yeah.
Name. So what I did though, this was 2009. So at the end of 2008, I came up with this idea. I'm like, hey, why don't I gain a ton of weight, and then in the beginning of the year, when everyone starts for their New Year's resolutions, I'll shred it down, and then I'll use like a cross between MySpace, YouTube, like all this other stuff, and I'll document, MySpace, YouTube, Facebook, and then I'll document everything I did, and I'll call it Project Billy. So, I did that. I did that for 13 weeks, and on the 13th week, so basically I was doing 4-day a week, weight training splits with a ton of cardio, and I was on a ridiculously strict diet. And every 5th week, I would change the routine up though. So each week I put up like a new set of workout videos. So, I would get Mondays on week 1, Tuesdays on week 2, Thursdays on week 3, Fridays on week 4. And then by the time week 5 rolled around, I was back on Monday and my routine had changed. So towards the end, I was theming these videos, and on week 13, I did like a military themed video. And, so I dressed up in camo paint and all this other stuff. And, I used my old Marine Corps camis and everything though. So I was looking in the mirror, and I kind of saw myself, and I'm like, what, I want to go back. So that's pretty much what encouraged me to return to service in the Army. Just like wearing the uniform and getting that sense of pride, like because I had always done like limit pushing type stuff, just like with my regular workouts and everything. And I just looked at it and I just felt like something was missing, because I was always taking like mock PFT tests just to see how I would do and everything though. So I was still at the point where I was doing like 3 miles in like around 18 minutes or so. I was doing like 30 something pull-ups and crunches. I don't even worry about that though, because like it's once you have that base, like I could probably go now and do 100 sit-ups if I wanted to.
Right.
But I'm not going to, obviously. But but
No, no, I would say you can continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
okay, no. Yeah, so so I tried to get back in the Marine Corps first, but I had already passed my service obligation, so I would have to go back in again. And they had they had changed their tattoo policy and everything though, so they basically shut me down on that. So then I decided to go into the Army for special forces. So I got about 2 years through the program. I failed out on the small unit tactics portion, and then I finished out with the 82nd Airborne. And so that was about 2012. I got out, and towards the end of 2012, I mean, I had like separation issues, just kind of like everyone else does. But I didn't fall into the bottle or fall into drugs. I got into like excessively working out. So it got to the, like I had an ex-girlfriend that ditched me while I was overseas and got pregnant with somebody else's kid. So it kind of messed me up a little bit. And then, I got home. I needed something to take my mind off of things. So all I did was kind of work out, while going to school and doing a bunch of other stuff. So I was at the point where I was doing like 8-hour workout days. Like it was crazy. Like I would like, at the end of the week, I had like an Endomondo tracker, and I would look at it and I was like, wow, I worked out 40 hours this week. But I wasn't really doing it so much to produce a result. It was more kind of like therapy for me.
Sure.
That went on for like about 6 months or so. And then one day I was in the middle of a 10-mile run. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing with myself? So fast forward a little bit to 2013. So 2013, I had done my first race in 2010. It was the Army birthday 10-miler at Fort Bragg. And then after that, I went to a 10K, and then I shot straight to a marathon. So after I did 7 marathons while I was in the language phase of special forces training, because you get weekends off and everything. And then fast forwarding to 2013, I needed something to kind of give me like an objective, like just out of like outside world day-to-day stuff. So I signed up for a half marathon. I did a couple of CrossFit competitions, and then in March of that year, one of my friends talked me into doing the Charlotte Sprint. So March of 2013 was my first Spartan race. So I flew down to go do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I kind of went military style, so I went like Marine Corps style. And I went boots and utes, which for those people that don't know, boots and utes is where you wear your camouflage bottoms and combat boots.
Yeah.
And I didn't wear a uniform shirt though. I just wore whatever shirt I had. So I wore a tank top though, and at the time I wasn't even built like a runner. I was like 220 pounds and like ripped to shreds.
Right.
So after I got muddy and everything though, all I got the entire race was volunteers yelling at me, "Get to the chopper!"
Right. I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure.
but at the time it was one of the hardest things I did, because it was like 34 degrees and raining out, and I didn't really feel the cold until I got to that 300-foot barbed wire crawl. Because remember, like back in the day, they used to have that football field standard length barbed wire crawl. So I didn't know about the rolling technique though. So that ground sucked every ounce of body heat I had out of me. And I jumped the fire, got hit by the gladiators a bunch of times, and I didn't even see the finish line. I ran like right past it, and I'm running up the road, and I see people walking around with medals. I'm like, wait a minute, am I done? So then I ended up finding the guy that took my timing chip, gave me my medal, and I immediately went to the heated changing tent and just sat there and shivered for like an hour until I was able to put my clothes back on.
That's
But
awesome.
that was kind of like the gateway. So like in 2013, that's pretty much when I started, and it gave me an objective to accomplish. It gave me something outside of like day-to-day work and everything. So, I went from Spartan, Tough Mudder. I researched a bunch of like obstacle races. And I did a little bit of everything that year. I did like Savage Race, Warrior Dash. Like I kept finding local stuff, you
That's
know.
awesome. No, that's
So
awesome, dude. And I want to say one thing. It's crazy too, because like, and then we'll jump into the finish here. But it's the cool things I want to touch on before we get past it. Is you brought up one thing at the beginning too, which I love. Is you talked about pro wrestling, all that stuff, and that was like your thing, right? So I grew up the same way. I love the pro wrestling side of the Jeff Hardys, the Dudley Boys, like all the era, the Stone
yeah.
Colds, the Rocks, all that stuff. And how old are you, Billy?
Oh, right now I'm 42.
42. Okay. I thought you were in your early 40s. I wasn't sure. So it was funny when you brought up the wrestling, I could relate, especially because they just had like a comeback this past weekend with the Undertaker coming back and all this stuff. So it was like
And
funny you brought
I heard I saw the Instagram feed. I'm like, man, I missed out.
dude. Yeah. Everyone was super hyped because that was the thing. I'm only 33, but
Especially
like
since like I hear the Rock's like killing it there too.
he is. He's like the main. So he's back. He's playing the villain now. Like he's the bad guy. He comes strutting in. He's cursing down the aisle. They're bleeping out like every other word. Like he's the bad guy.
He
He's
always had that cocky persona too, though. So he makes a much better bad guy than a good guy.
He does, because he's got like the slap your mouth, like no, you're roll, like the whole nine, right? So he plays
Yeah,
it really really well, and there was everyone in the world thought,
that he loves. That's the thing about it, though. Like, because
yeah,
I can remember like when he first because when I started watching, he was still Rocky Maivia. So he was
yes,
that dude. Character was stale or whatever, and then when they turned him into the Rock, they tried to push him into a character that everybody hated, but everybody loved him. Like just because he was just like he was cocky, but he was funny about it. He just had like so much charisma where it just drew people in. Like and he ended because he crossed over to that whole Nation of Domination thing, and they ended
right.
up taking over the leadership spot just because they couldn't hold him down. It's
See, that was my era. It was The Rock, it was Stone Cold, it was like the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, like the what you call it era,
the
damn,
Attitude Era.
the Attitude
Yeah.
Era, exactly, the whole thing. So I had a little nostalgia when you brought that up because I haven't followed it that much, but then all of a sudden, like I'm seeing highlights come in. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I was like just trending watching them because it brought me back to like those moments. So it was funny you
Yeah,
brought
see,
that up.
I watched it as a real little kid, like back when like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior were like clashing and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I stopped for a while, and then after my parents split up, it was kind of like, like my Monday night therapy. So like from like 1995 until I went into the Marine Corps, like at the end in October of '99, I like never missed an episode. Like
I
every
love
week it
it.
was, like between that and it was during the Monday Night Wars with them and WCW.
Yep. Hogan
You
going
know,
back and forth and all that stuff going on. It's like, it's cool. That's awesome, man. I mean, it's cool that that was like something that you could like hold on to. Cause I feel like that's a lot of people that like wrestling. Cause if it's, oh, it's gimmicky, it's fake. But like, I think everybody to an extent has their thing that like gives them that comfort or that like that feeling of like being a child and not have to stress and all that. And like, obviously that was a piece for you. And then, what was cool. So you talked about when you were, going back into the military stuff and like it seemed like you were pretty confident like I want to push the hardest possible. I want to go to the Marines and try to find out the hardest one that you could do. Now like that type of mentality, work ethic, like was that something was it more instilled into you as a kid, or is that something that like you
it
um
wasn't really it wasn't really like instilled into me. It was just kind of something though. I think like because like my parents weren't really like pushers either. Like I actually kind of wish they were more because it probably would have helped me out a little bit later on in life. But it was more or less like once I got into working out, I just loved everything about it. Like I didn't really know what I was doing too much, but I got into it, and then later on I became a trainer and everything, and then but yeah, it was more like the workout stuff and like the physical toughness that came into it, and like I just wanted to, because I like emulated off of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I watched a
yeah.
lot of action. That whole like who is better, Steven Seagal or Van Damme. Like I watched all that
Right.
stuff, and it just kind of brought it to a point though where it's like I want to be like that. I want to be somebody that's like tough, like unstoppable. So because I was always like a quiet, shy kid, like growing up. Though I pretty much like hung out by myself, and then even when I worked out, I didn't really display that like that much confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be at the I always wear like 2XL shirt. I'm
Yeah.
like 5'9" right now, and I always wore like super. Now I wear everything kind of like on the tight side though,
Right.
but like back then, I always used to wear like extra large double XL shirts, so nobody knew I worked out. And I used to be the kid that like sat at the lunch table alone until one day, I think it was either 10th or 11th grade. They were arm wrestling at the table. So one of them pointed at me and told me to come over. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it, whatever. So I set up like this, and the guy jumped the gun, and I didn't realize he started until I saw like fatigue in his face. So when I saw the fatigue in his face, I just went like this. And one of my friends goes to me, he's like, dude, your forearm just doubled in size. What happened? He's like, dude, make a muscle. So at the time, my bicep measurement was like about 17, 18 inches.
It's a big
That
arm though.
wasn't cut up. It was, yeah, it was like thick though, because I didn't really know what I was doing on the diet side. I was just kind of like eating food and like lifting heavy. And, you know, from the age of 14 on, I pretty much took creatine nonstop. So
Right.
I didn't know how to use, I just took it.
Well, it's like with the
But
post. It was like the other day with the post. I think we both commented on it. Someone was like asking about
yeah.
creatine, the same thing, right? It's like it's one of the easiest things to do. It's like everyone should just take it.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, not to go too off tangent though, but like when I went back to college for fitness in 2012, I actually wrote my thesis on creatine.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
cool
why I
fun
was able
fact.
to spill all the information out,
You're
out
like,
like that
boop,
though.
boop, 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 boop. Yeah, it was like right down the
Still
line.
off memory too. I didn't look any of that up. I mean, it was also too like I'm constantly taking fitness certifications all the
Yeah,
time, just
it's
sharp.
crazy amount. The amount you take in like every other week. It's like training for this, training for that. I think 100 certifications or something like that.
It's, I have to look at my actual life because I have an actual life resume written up, like something that you never hand in for work, but it's like 50 plus pages long because that has
Wow.
everything. Well, I'm also including all the events on there too. But I
Yeah,
think I'm somewhere between 60 and 70 certifications right now. I
that's
mean, a lot of them are expired too, obviously, because it costs money to renew them.
yeah.
Like I got a master trainer through ISSA, so I have 10 through them. I have about 12 through NASM. Like I have NCSF, I have a master trainer through them. So with that one, that's just your regular trainer, your strength coach, and then your sports nutrition, and then yeah. So I was also an SGX for like about a year, but their renewals are kind of weird. I don't know. I mean, I haven't
Super
looked it up
impressive,
recently.
man. I mean, the fact that you want to continue to learn at that level, and I think
Yeah,
like that
and I'm
work
also
ethic is so
an avid
hard for
reader.
someone.
Like, I constantly read like psychology and like self improvement books though too though. Not so much even for myself though, but it gives me a perspective. So it kind of like teaches me like how I can make other people better too. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's amazing. I love that. No, I definitely do. I went back and did my master's recently in sports psychology because just the curiosity. It was like it I didn't take a job that needed it, but like as a coach and just like my own self-development, like implementing different strategies from mental toughness to self-talk to like the brain psychology of like all this stuff is just so valuable that I don't think, and I think you can probably explain this the best of anybody. Everything you're doing physically teaches you so much about yourself that applies to every avenue in your life. Like, I think that's the underestimated
Like,
thing.
like
You
little
learn so
stuff like
much.
yeah, well, even stuff like 100 milers, like death races, like stuff like that. It teaches you more about yourself, and it's not really so much about physical condition. I mean, yeah, you have to be in shape to do it, but it's more like a mindset thing, though. Especially like with the ultramarathons, like just not quitting and just putting one foot in front of the other, and then kind of figuring yourself out. It's like, okay, it's mile 40 and I'm puking. How do I keep myself going without having to have an ambulance called on me? So like little stuff like that. You just kind of figure things out and you get to really know yourself, because especially when you get into the really long distance stuff, I can provide a strategy that works for me, but it might not work for somebody else because that person's a different person.
Absolutely.
So like so with some of that stuff, it takes like personal experience. Like I can give like different tactics to use, but until you actually get out there, because a lot of it's like just knowing yourself and your body's capabilities, how you feel like when like something bad's about to happen versus okay, this is just something that I can push through,
Yeah.
so
And I did my first world's toughest mudder last year, and that was like a 10. It you can plan all you want, but until you get thrown into the trenches and you're out there for 14 hours
yeah.
and you're cold and you're wet and it's great in theory, but you, like to your point, you have to go through it to actually understand it, and then
Oh yeah.
that's when you have to actually learn the most about yourself is, and then you learn so much. So this time it's not about finishing, it's about what you're capable of. And then I love the idea. I had someone I was talking to who's a sports psychologist, and he was like, you know like it's not about avoiding pain, it's not about avoiding discomfort, it's about planning for everything that's going to happen and having strategy in place when it does happen to handle it and continue to move forward. And I think that makes a ton of sense because it's not like anxiety, fear, pressure, like all that stuff's not always a bad thing. It prepares you to go to battle in theory.
Oh yeah. Well, also too though, like the more you do it, the more like comfortable you get with it. So like like the first 100 miler or whatever, for example, like you're scared shitless, but the more of them you do, it's like all right, you know, it's like sometimes you'll just kind of like zone out, and then before you know it, you cross the finish line and be like, how did I do that? You know,
Yeah. Well,
after
these
a
last
while, once you get confident, it's all like systematic. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas if because a lot of people also have the fear of the unknown, and
absolutely.
also, well, especially any ultra, like even a Spartan ultra, you might hit a wall at like mile 12 on the first loop, and then somehow be able to pull yourself back, and then you feel fine later. Like as long as you don't quit, and a lot of those things though too though, like especially if Spartan ultras are good though too though, because they have a lot of volunteers on staff, or volunteers or medical staff, whatever. So you're still safe. You know what I'm saying? Like to the point where you're probably not going to die out there. Whereas like some of those 100 milers, you might have like 9 miles to the next aid station, and you're alone for like 2 hours. So those get a little on the scary side. So, but like some of the, like with most of these races though, it's like there's a support staff there, so like if something happens, you're taken care of. So that removes some of the fear out. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, how much do you think people are limiting themselves? Because, like, when you're doing this, like last year, you talked about the amount of stuff that you've accomplished in the last year and a half plus, like the races and things. How much do you think is purely physical or purely mental? Because I feel like, to your point, you made a good example of like you might be feeling rough physically, but like your brain and your mindset is going to be the difference of pushing through or not. And I think fear and that lack of self belief that they're capable of it is like their biggest issue with even accomplishing it and even doing it well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's mostly mental. I mean,
Yeah.
well, there's a lot of stuff too, though. Like, we even like because I do have I do also have like a powerlifting meet under my belt and
I
like
saw
took
that.
off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So with powerlifting, not so much the squat or the squat or the bench press, but the deadlift. The deadlift's one of those you have to believe in yourself to do it though, because like I consider like the deadlift like a purely like offensive lift where the squat and the bench press are defensive. Because with the squat and the bench press, if you don't lift it, you're getting crushed. But I tell people all the time though, with a deadlift, you have a poor defenseless barbell on the ground, and you have to go in there and rip it off the floor. So
Yeah.
you have to have that belief that you can do it, where there's no like actual like reason to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, like I when I was competing in bodybuilding, I did like a hybrid powerlifting program to compete. And I remember, my biggest deadlift was 585 and I weighed 181. And it was one of those things walking up to the bar. And I've said this too, like, and you probably see this with clients. If there's any
Yeah,
doubt on a 1 rep max that it's gonna go up or not, it's not gonna go up. Like you
it's
gotta
not.
believe it's gonna go. And it's gotta be a max. Like you gotta let everything out, give it everything you have. And if there's self-doubt, you might as well not walk up to the bar because it's not going to go. Like that's the hard part, I think.
It's got to be just ripped like cleanly off the floor. Because like
Yeah.
if you get stuck in the middle, I mean, I've seen people lift it where they're practically doing a seizure with the barbell, but at the same time,
Yeah.
though, that's setting yourself up. Like if I don't have a clean pull, I'm not lifting it though because it's just not worth the risk.
Right.
I mean, like right now I have the hip issue, so I can't really deadlift at the moment until I get it fixed. But and I miss it. I miss deadlifting badly. It was always my favorite lift.
Me too. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. And I've had issues running high volume with deadlifting. It's just my back
Yeah.
just doesn't love it at all. Um, for you now, you're like just finished. Is today your 100th ruck of the like your 100 in a row?
This afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gotten out there yet. Yeah, but
Nice.
I mean the rucks have been doing more so in the afternoon though. I'm kind of taking a rest week this week, so I'm just doing the rucks, and then because my body's like smashed to pieces right now.
I can
Like
imagine.
with
But let's
everything
dive
I've
into
got.
that, dude. Because that's
Well,
amazing. Like,
people will claim I don't rest though, but at the same time though, like if I'm like trashed, even though I might race every weekend, like I might take a rest week from training, but I'll still get out there. You know what I'm saying though? So I
oh
do plug
yeah.
in like you
Because
have to.
dude, people are the thing is, like I think a lot of people we're in such a society now, and I don't know how much this is for you at all, but like we get into a headspace where it's okay to like fit shame people or like you're doing too much or you're gonna hurt like, but
Yeah.
it's okay to be sedentary and like this and out of shape and overweight. Like it's this weird dynamic where like I just had a client that was like getting into shape and they're like fit shaming them, like, oh, you do too much. You track your food. It's like, oh, it's like, dude,
Yeah.
it's that it's frustrating to see because to your point, like, why are we downplaying people for doing too much? Like, you
We
may,
should, and we should though. You should celebrate people that want to put effort in and like do things like that. It's because anybody that's actively going out there as a way to better themselves, like it's something that should be promoted.
yeah,
It's something that should be celebrated. I mean, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, whatever you do, you're gonna get like
some
you,
hate.
you yeah, you're gonna get hate from people. Like I've kind of learned to tune those people out. Like a lot of time, like comments or whatever. I don't even care because but like when they start spilling into my DMs about stuff, I just block them. It's not even worth the effort. I don't care how long I've known them, but like if they start doing, and I'm not talking about just like little like remarks, like if they like insult you personally or do something to
Sure.
destroy your credit, yeah, those people just get blocked. I don't tolerate that. It's not even worth it.
I'm in the same boat. I think I'm at a point in my life, I'm 33. Like, I don't hang out or talk to many people. I mean, I talk to a decent amount of people, but I don't hang out with many people because the circle of the environment that I put myself around, like, I need positive
Yeah,
people. I need optimism. I don't want pessimism and negativity in my life. I don't need that around me. It doesn't better me at all. So I think as you grow up 30s, 40s, like your circle gets smaller because that
yeah.
if you have that mindset, like it's sometimes it's far and few between, but like that's how you become successful, I think, in any dynamic.
Yeah, see with me, I don't even have a local circle because I mean I'm like well you're from Connecticut you said right, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know how the personalities are as compared to like Long Island, but it's very hard to find people that are like supportive that aren't just out for themselves or whatever.
It is.
But like
Or
but you go
jealous.
to pretty much, but like when you go to like these communities like the Spartan community, the ultra running community, like there's literally like no hate there. Like it's, like people are supportive, people like I've seen stuff like in the ultra running world where the first place person will stop and help out the second place person, like if he's hitting a wall, and then he'll continue on and do what he's got to do. Like it's more like community oriented though. Everyone helps each other out. Like even when like 2019, when I was chasing that record for most 100 milers in a year, like I got so much, like people were volunteering to like give me places to stay and give me rides and stuff like that, and like everyone went out of the way to help.
Let's talk about
Like
the 100. Oh, go ahead. You can finish this thing. You're good.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's talk about that, dude, because that's probably the most fast of all these are amazing. The amount of trifectas you did, I've seen people
Yeah.
do those. Like it's incredible. I've all the ultras you've done. I mean, from winning a race, holding the flag to
Yeah.
the 100 miler winning. I mean, that stuff is mind boggling. But the 100 milers, I don't think the average person actually like they hear 100, like holy cow, it's a lot. But people say a marathon's hard, and you did how many hundreds in a year?
Well, I did over a rolling year, so a 12-month period, I did 37. But during 2019 in a 10-month time, I did 35 of them. And those are the ones that I finished. So I still have like 5 DNFs mixed in there with the
Damn.
shortest DNF, 52 miles.
What was the
And
thought
I also
process?
bad water 52.4 or whatever it was. It was 50 miles or a little over 50.
What was
And
the
that's just
thought
because
process with that, dude? Like, what did it, was this a game plan? Like, all right, the next year I'm going to try to go for this? Or was it like you did
It
one?
started off with a tentative plan, and then I set the wheels in motion. So with that, so 2018 was more of like a trifecta year, and it was originally supposed to be like a Tough Mudder year, because I wanted to like work on getting that 100+ headband. But that was the year that Tough Mudder changed their course to a 2-lap course, and then I had a I had a bad experience in March of that year because I was supposed to do Toughest Mudder West, and then as soon as my flight landed in LA, Tough Mudder canceled the event. So I'm
Oh,
sitting there at the airport and I don't know what to do. So I threw up a post on Facebook about it. So then one of my Spartan friends is like, "Hey, why don't you, since you're in the area, why don't you do the Spartan Super in Las Vegas?" I'm like, all right, so Vegas is about 5 hours from LA. So I go pick up my rental car and I'm sitting in the rental car parking lot changing my hotel plans and everything on the fly. And Spartan picked up the slack and gave me a free entry because
oh,
Tough
that's
Mudder can't.
cool.
And this is before they were parted. This is when they were butting heads and like sending out their little advertisement was an ad that said race canceled. Don't worry, we got you. And it had like a picture of 3 people like pointing and laughing.
That's
So anybody that
hilarious.
anybody that was registered for Toughest Mudder West ended up getting a free Spartan Super for in Arizona for the Vegas Super. So when I did that, it ended up turning into a trifecta year because of that. So I ended up getting like 12 trifectas that year, and I didn't even have a season pass. I did it all off volunteer shifts. So like every weekend, I would like hand out medals at the finish line and race in the afternoon. So I did all that. I did World's Toughest Mudder that year. I did the Spartan Ultra World Championships in Iceland. But at the end of the year, I was doing this 50K series, and it was typically a marathon, but it was the first time they offered it as 50Ks. So it was called the Savage Seven. So it was 750Ks in 7 days. And I carried the flag. I raised money for charity. I was the first one to finish it as a 50K series. But while I was doing that, this is around the time frame where David Goggins' book "Can't Hurt Me" came out.
Great book. Both of them are great.
So I was reading his book, and he was getting into how he broke the world record for most pull-ups in 24 hours. So he never advertised himself as being like this endurance guy. He just advertised himself as like a guy that turned himself into this monster, and he got a world record. So I started thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, so what can I do that's a world record? Because I'm like a guy that goes out and does all this crazy stuff and everything. What's the difference between me and him though? He's the man that trained himself to get to a level to where he could do it. So I started thinking, and at the time I only had like 10 100-mile finishes. So I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be a record for the most 100 milers in a year. So I looked it up, and at the time it was this guy Ed Eddinghausen. He did 41 of them in a year. So I laid out a plan. I drew up a spreadsheet. I looked at the cost, and I'm like, there's no way I can afford this. So my plan downgraded to just doing like one a month. But so after I do the Savage 7 series, January rolls in. And it took about 2-3 weeks before I did my first one. So I signed up for the first one I did was the Frozen Hellhole 100. And I went down there. I drove from New York to South Carolina to do it. And I ended up winning the race.
Damn.
So I do that. And then I start looking. And the next week, I find this race called the Skydive Ultra. It's down in Clewiston in Florida. And somehow magically, I found a discounted flight to Orlando, which is still 2 hours from the venue. And then I ended up, this is 2019, so the rental car prices were different. I ended up getting a car for like $30 for the whole weekend.
Wow.
So I'm like, wow, all right, so let me go do it. So then that second week in a row, I PR'd my 100-mile time.
That's
So I was
insane.
like, oh, I'm like, wow, all right. So then all of a sudden, I found the Rocky Raccoon race in Texas. So this was week 3. So I go there. I didn't get a PR or anything though, but I crushed. I think I did the first 80 miles in like 17 hours. So I was like
Damn.
flying, and then I hit the tree route from hell, and then I fell asleep a few times, but I still ended up finishing in like around 25 hours. And then week 4 was the Lone Star 100. So flights to El Paso were ridiculous, and then magically the week of they were trying to like book seats. So I found a discounted flight for that, and I'm like, all right, so I'll go do this. And then this is a race. It was pretty much it had like 3 summit climbs, and the summit climbs were switchbacks that went about 3.5 miles in distance. And to give you an idea, is at the southern tip of the Rockies. So at base level, the temperature was 80 degrees. At the top of the summit, it was below freezing. So I
Wow.
literally had to carry a jacket and tie it around my waist. But I ended up finishing that race. So I hit 4 in a row, and I'm like, you know what? I could probably do this. So then that's about the time where I'm like, all right, let me set up a GoFundMe page, see if I can fundraise a little bit though. I'm gonna go out and try to smash this world record for the most 100 milers in a year. So, I finished the first 6 weekends in a row. Weekend number 7, I believe, was the Badwater race, the 50-mile one. And the main reason I did that one too, though, because I wanted to get into the adventure course system because I wanted to do the Badwater 135 in 2020. So I did that race, and then I had a weekend off after that, and then just systematically, the next one after that was a Lake Martin, so it started up a new stretch. So in Pennsylvania, David Goggins was giving a speech. So the cost of admission was a copy of his book. So I canceled my night sessions. I drove out there on a work night. This was the night before I was flying out to Alabama for the Lake Martin race. And David Goggins' best stretch was 8 100s in 8 weekends. So I don't know how long of a stretch I had him lined up for, but I had a much longer than that. So I'm waiting in line in the rain to go in there, and David Goggins busts the door open. He's like, "You guys all here to see me?" He's like, "All right, break out the cell phones. I'll take pictures." So he's going around talking to like each person in line, and when he gets about like maybe like 4 or 5 people away from me, security comes up to us. He's like, "Yeah, well, he's got to go in soon, though. You guys will get your chance later." So David Goggins overhears this, and he goes to security. He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Hell no! All these people are waiting out in the rain to see me. You guys are on my time. I'll tell you when I'm going inside, though. I'm going to make sure each and every person goes to get a picture with me." And he was literally running laps around the parking lot taking pictures with people.
That's hilarious.
Great guy. But when I took the picture with him, I go to him, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to break your stretch of the most 100 milers in consecutive weekends." And then no shit talk, no nothing. He just goes to me, he's like, "Hell yeah, man, get it done. Get after it."
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's perfect timing for like inspiration combination of like this stretch.
And well, I ended up tying it that time around. And the last race was the Bloodroot Ultra. I won the race, but at mile 80, like I felt something go pop in my shin. So that knocked me out for like 2 weekends after that, though, because the next race was the Florida Keys 100. And that's a race I should have smoked, like gotten through easily. But my shin was killing me, so I had my physical therapist. I was actually sponsored by a physical therapist, so that worked out really well.
That's good. That's really good.
Therapist throw some K-tape on my right shin, and I just hope for a prayer. And I got to mile 65 before I was just in so much pain where I keeled over, and like I ended up having to take a week off after that. But so I ended up tying his best mark that time around, and then later on in the year, like in August, I hit a DNF at this race called the Habanero 100. So it's basically in August in the Houston area. It's actually at Seven Ill Ranch where the Spartan race was. So if you're familiar with that one, it's just all soft sand. It's all exposed in sunlight. That's why it's called the Habanero 100.
Sure. Yeah. Just burning it
I
up.
was I was completely defeated. So at this point, like I had like $10 left in my savings account. I literally went through everything I had. I had one set of shoes left, and all they were a set of street Hokas, and that's pretty much why my feet got destroyed that race because like they were just like one like giant. They were both like giant hamburgers. So I threw up a post on Facebook saying that I'm like I can't do this anymore. I have no money left. I have no shoes left. I have no nothing. So this guy that was a member of this Marine Ultra, the group was called Murica. It was Marine Ultra Runners. I forgot what the C and the A stood for, but it was a Marine Ultra Runner group. And he goes and he's like, "What's your fundraiser link?" So I gave it to him. So he goes into this Facebook group, shares it, and he's like, "Look, I don't care what you give this guy, give him something, just so he can get this done." And within like a day, I had like about like close to 10 grand donated to me.
Wow. That's
Sets of
incredible.
shoe sets. So I had like 9 sets of Ultra Olympuses sent to me, and like 3 of them from Ultra. Like everyone just reached out and just dumped it down and helped me out. And at the time, I was starting to like suffer from a hip injury. But at that point, like I'm like I can't stop now. Like I got all this money and everything donated to me, so I ended up finishing my next 12 in a row. And then on the 13th one, the pain in my hip just got too much though, because like it impinged on the nerve, so it was starting to shut my quad down a little bit. So, because like if you see me out at a race, I'm limping, like I'm not really like running anymore. But yeah, it just got to the point where I stumbled off the starting line and I couldn't generate enough speed to finish it within the time. So I didn't realize like how badly I was hurt in the beginning. And there were 3 of us going for this record at the same time. It was me, this guy Walter Hanloser, and Michael Ortiz. And Walter had just broken the record, so he had already gotten number 42. So I did calculations on how many weeks remained, and I didn't have enough weeks to even like tie him because he already took the record away. After that DNF, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Like I literally would have had to be perfect for the rest of the year or like if I didn't DNF. But once I got that last DNF, I didn't have enough weekends left, so I started calculating stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop now, rest up, and then maybe next year or the year after, I'm gonna go after this again. But then when I got my X-rays done, they're like, "Yeah, you have some arthritis in your hip. You really shouldn't be running anymore." And I kind of dismissed it at first, because like I mean, my mindset, I was like, "Oh, it's just arthritis. I'll just have to deal with pain, whatever." But I didn't realize like how debilitating it was, and it took me like maybe about a year before I was even able to like run again. But I could never generate any speed because the way the bone spurs sit, my hip extension is limited. So like I got to the point where I was hovering like a little above an 8-minute mile, and then I was able to do well with that all the way up until 2022. And then I remember I was doing the Fayetteville Ultra, and I ran. That's when they had the short rope slip wall.
Yeah.
So lap 2, I ran up to try to catch the rope, and I jammed my leg on the short rope slip wall, and that's like the last time I've been able to like run. And I mean, I was, even with the bad hip and everything, I did like 3 ultras and 3 ultrafecta weekends in a row because I did Jersey, Montana, Fayetteville back to back to back. It actually took me quite a few to normal again. but but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much like what did my hip in.
Yeah.
And you know, but going back to 2019, the last race I finished that year was in November. It was the Tunnel Hill 100. And before I even went to that year, so November, let me think race wise, where was I at that point? Okay, so November of 2018, Thanksgiving weekend, I did the St. Sebastian 100. And then December of 2018, I did the Lougarou 100, which is actually a cool one because it was in Louisiana where they have like the werewolf legend and stuff. So it was running through the bayou and everything. But yeah, so that's where the 37 comes from though, because I had those 2 lingering from that year. So in a 12-month time frame, I did 37. So that puts me like for the 12-month period, there's only 4 of us in the world that ever did that many. And I carried the American flag for each one of them. So I'm the only one to have ever done that.
Dude, it's insanely impressive. And the fact that like, I think, Goggins is a savage, right? Like everyone loves his books, inspired by him, straight up beast. His story is inspirational. And then there's like, it's funny. I was talking to my friend Kat, who she's I used to work with as a trainer, and then we pitted. She pit me at Worlds, and she's going to do Worlds with me this year, and like all this stuff. And she's doing the Spartan Ultra in Jersey this week, 2 weeks coming up with me. So we're doing that
Okay.
one. And I was telling her, I'm like, dude, I'm like, Goggins doesn't have anything on this guy. Like I'm like, this is wild, bro. So that's the thing. It's crazy because it's like, how many people are doing these incredible feats that just aren't, they're known, but you're not like millions of followers on Instagram or anything. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy what you've accomplished and how much you've done. It's just, it's amazing, dude. Like, I don't even know what to say besides it's just like crazy. Like I've never met David Goggins. I went to a thing in Boston. I met Jocko. So it was cool to hang out with Jocko and just like talk to him a little bit. Like that was awesome. But I would love to meet him. I mean, he's always been a cool dude. With all your
John's a cool dude too. I'd love to meet him.
Jocko's awesome. Like he did it was like a couple hour talk. And it's cool, dude, because he's so about, like, if you read any of his books, he's so about accountability, discipline, and like
Yeah,
his books on leadership.
I read his 3 main books, and then I have his little like handbook thing, like, and that
The
little,
guide. Yeah.
the guide.
What do we got here? Discipline equals.
I've read that one though, but he has a
This is
thinner
like the
one.
basic one, yeah. But
Yeah,
it is funny, dude, because like people like that are just super inspiring to me. And like you said, those are the people I feel like you tap into to an extent. With all the hundreds you've done, is there one that stands out that you feel like tested you like no other, that you had to push through like things that you never had to push through in any other ones? Is there anything like that
yes.
that comes to mind? Because you had to dig deep on all these. There's no doubt about it. But is there one or two that you're like, this was I had to dig to get through this?
All right, so the hardest one that I didn't finish was the Moose 100, which is in the Palisades and area in like Idaho, like Wyoming, like that type of area.
Yep.
And that one, like, that was one where I remember there was this one stretch where I almost went down, where it was like 9 miles between aid stations and something ridiculous, like I think like 5,000 feet of gain or something like that. And when I got there, like I was blackout for like about half of it. And when I went to them, I'm like, why didn't you have any more aid stations or anything like that? They're like, oh well, didn't you read the free racing? He said to bring iodine tablets so you could refill in the stream.
Damn.
I'm like, no,
Obviously not.
stream water enough. I wouldn't do that anyway.
Wow.
But yeah, there was that one, and then the hardest one that I finished was probably the Mulgaya Monster 100.
Okay.
And that one was an interesting one. It wasn't even so much the difficulty level though, but like it was it went through multiple ecosystems. It's in Arizona. Arizona's kind of crazy like that. Like 1 minute it's 90 degrees, and the next minute there's snow falling. So just depending on like where you're driving to. But the Mulgaya Monster, it started out in the forest. Then you went in the desert for a little bit. Then you were up in the mountains, and then you finished in town. So like you saw all sorts of like crazy stuff out there. And then, that was also a race though too though, where as I'm driving away from it, as I'm going back to the airport in Phoenix, the mountain range where it was at, there were these two lone clouds floating over it, just zapping the mountain with lightning. It almost looked like they were like two alien spaceships, like just shooting it, but they were just like clouds. But it was like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That is really
But that was also a race though too though, where they're not allowed to like target shoot there, but like some random people were target shooting. So I'm running down the mountain. There's rocks and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm hearing ricochets, and then I'm hearing like high pitched cracks, and it's like, oh, I'm getting shot at. So nobody got hit, but there was like a whole group of us that were running by, and like they're like shouting out, "There's people on course!" But I think they were so far away they just didn't see us.
right.
Because not like the bullets were coming from a distance. It wasn't like they were like right up on us, like shooting us. But I think they just didn't know any better. But
Have you ever had any like hallucinations or anything like that in these 24-hour races? Have you ever got to that point, or like is it not because have you not got to that like 2-day type thing? You know what I mean? Like during these races?
Yeah, no, you get to it. I think like the death race, that was like at the time it was like the longest thing I ever did. And I mean, it was a team one, so we were split up into 4-man teams, and I didn't really have like a strategy because I had never done anything at that scale before.
Right.
Usually, I'll have like 5-hour energies in my pockets and stuff like that. If I start to go down or crash, I'll just pop one of them, and then usually I'll take like some ibuprofen like every 5 hours or something. But I always take the recommended dose though. I don't go above and beyond.
Yeah, I saw a post the other day, like someone talking about that, and you were like, you never had any issues with any type of situation.
Yeah. The thing about it is though is like it's generally safe as long as you're following the directions. Though I think like what a lot of ultra runners do, they'll just grab like a whole handful of them and
Yeah,
swallow them.
it's
And
crazy.
well, not only that though, but when you're doing those type of distances, as it is, like your body's going to be a mess. Because I mean, like for training purposes, you want to manipulate training variables to train for it versus like actually training for the distance. So, like with 100 milers, for example, you can cluster 10-mile runs on like back to back days, or you can hit the gym with a brutal leg workout and then go run the next day. You're just training to run on like sore legs. But if you go out and actually like run 100 miles to train for a 100 miler, you're probably going to break yourself,
Right.
So, and that year I was doing all those 100s, I didn't train my lower body at all in between. Like, I was sponsored by a physical therapist, so I did 2 physical therapy appointments a week. And then I lifted weights with my upper body, but like I just did it enough to maintain the look for my job. Like I wasn't really like trying to break any strength records or
Yeah.
anything. It
Hypertrophy
was
work,
more
maintenance. Yeah.
yeah, like I like bench pressing, for example, like I typically wouldn't exceed like 185. Like, and I was somebody that in the past used to have like a 400-pound bench press.
Wild.
But at the same time, like at that point, I was just lifting light and just getting pumps, just so I still looked like a personal trainer, and I didn't like
You didn't turn into a tiny, skinny, dying
yeah.
person running.
Well, also, too, at the time, I was working at a Gold's Gym, so when you're working at a Gold's, you can't go in. You can't advertise yourself for that kind of job like looking skinny. Like you have to have like a little, at least a little bit. You have to. You
You
don't
gotta
have
look
to
the
be like,
part.
oh, but you have to kind of look the part. Like you have to see muscles in your shirt and be like, okay, this dude works out, so I'll go to him for. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, it's half the thing is like, people can say what they want, but no one wants an overweight, obese personal trainer. Like realistically, like, you know what I mean? There are people who are like, well, they're not judgmental and they don't judge me. It's like, nah, but like, I mean, I get if like, some of the elite power lifters in the world, these women, men that are like big people, big dudes, big women, but they're squatting 700, 800, 900 pounds. I mean, that's a different
yeah, they
ball
have
game.
it backwards. Because I mean, ultimately, from a training standpoint, you should be the example of what your clients want to be.
100%. 100%.
Because that's what they're looking for. Like nobody wants to be overweight, so that's why and it's not like a judgmental thing. It's just
Just factual.
like I want to be like that guy, so I'm going to hire that guy. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is. It's just setting an example. The only time there might be a little asterisk there is if somebody was something, but then he had to stop due to an injury or something like that.
Right.
But he's got the awards, he's got the photos and stuff. It proves that he was somebody that just can't do it anymore. But he was a champion in the past, though. So, it's like, I don't know. I guess it's like Nick with Rocky or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like he
you
was like
have
a
to
little old man, but he was a legendary trainer. So,
100%. And you want to
yeah.
get to that point, dude. Like if someone you're gonna hire someone, like if I'm not gonna hire someone that hasn't done it. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, hey, I want to run 100 miler, but you've never ran a 100 miler. There are coaches that are really good that can coach people to do it. But personally, I half of coaching is psychological. That's what it is. I mean, half of it's psychology. It's like prepping them like that. So like you going through that death race, you going through 100 miler, you know what it feels like at mile 77. So like to get it's I think that's the best way. Like I personally, when I've hired coaches, build a business, write me programs, do stuff, just even though I know how to do it, but it helps me. Like I want someone that's done it, you know?
Yeah, you want somebody that's in the position to where you want to be, or
Absolutely.
that was at some point, because even if they're not there anymore, they know how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm
100%.
saying? I mean, there are exceptions though. Like if somebody studies the science really well and starts producing
Right.
results, and you see that he's produced those results, so then you would go to him, but he's got to have that little resume of before after pictures or whatever you want to
Sure.
call it.
It's
But
even like West Side Barbell. You look at back in the day with like Louis Simmons, like he was a monster, right? And then eventually he couldn't do it anymore, but he always did it. Like it's or like, the tough thing is like even in college, I ran into this issues in the past where a lot of professors that go from like bachelor's, master's, doctorate teach, and they don't spend a lot of time in the field, but they're teaching you how to do it. So it's this weird dynamic sometimes I ran into in college settings where like I'd rather someone that maybe had a little less schooling, but has done the craft for a decade. It's different.
oh yeah, well, because nothing teaches better than experience.
Absolutely.
Like you can take all the textbook courses, whatever online courses you want, but if you've never gone out and done it, the textbook just gives you a roadmap, and then outside of that, you still have to like apply it. Because like I mean, let's see if I come up with an example here. I don't know. There's many courses that I've taken. I could get like a 98 on the test, but I still couldn't tell you how to do it.
Yeah, because it's partially like memorization, it's partially learning specific material, but yeah, it's like
Especially since it's multiple choice, because like a lot of multiple choice, you could just use you could just use the process of elimination and be like, okay, that's the answer.
yeah. Did you see, dude, so Christian Brown Johnson, do you know him? He does tons of Tough Mudders.
I
He's
might.
done Yeah, Christian Brown Johnson, he's done 100 miles a couple times at World's Toughest. He's a big Tough Mudder guy. Cool dude, super cool guy. But him and this other buddy, Jeff Lipper, who's also and does into like more the Tough Mudder and Spartan stuff. They both just signed up for the 300 miler out next year in April. I don't know if you heard about this race. It's a 300 miler. It's insane. I don't want to put it in front of you almost because I know your personality. You're like, huh, like what do we do?
Yeah, I'm gonna want to do it.
So he said it already filled up. Like,
But believe me, with my hip and everything else, like because I've had a couple of surgeries too. Though I
yeah,
ruptured my left bicep lifting weights. I ruptured my right bicep at a Tough Mudder.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but, for the most part, like I've been on and off with the rucksack. Like I mean, recently I brought it back. And to be honest, the reason I brought it back recently though is because it changes my gait pattern and actually makes it easier for me to walk.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of I guess because I don't get as much hip extension because I'm hitched forward a little bit, so I
That
actually
makes
limp less.
sense.
Yeah, I actually limp less if I throw it back on.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so at the same time though, it's kind of on the cool side though because it's actually easier to be a badass than not to be one.
I love it. I love it. I love it. No, I was getting curious too because I brought up the 300 because I just thought of it because I had a friend reach out to me before this, and I was talking to them. It's called the here I had it right here. It was called the Arizona Monster 300 that April 12th. So yeah, it's just crazy. I've seen the Moab 240s, the Cocadonas. Like I interviewed a guy. He was the first ever Scott Jenkins, first ever British runner to complete 200 milers in 5 weeks. So it was the big. They called it the big. Not the big three. The
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown. So he was the first ever British man to accomplish it.
It was what Tahoe,
Tahoe,
Moab.
Moab. Was it
There's one
Cocodona?
more. I'm not sure.
I had it three. There's the big three. I'm blanking out, but yeah, he's showing me the race times. It's like 88 hours, 78
Yeah,
hours. I'm
because
like,
that was one of my next goals to like do the 200 miles Triple Crown.
it's
I mean,
crazy.
those things are like 1,500 a piece to like enter
Dude,
though.
I was going to ask you how, like, I mean, you don't have to go too deep in this, but like, other than this, like, was your entire income and life being spent traveling doing these?
Pretty much.
I was going to say, like, I was
I'm a
like,
trainer. I'm not rich. Like I just figure out ways to make it work.
yeah.
Like last year was strictly a dedication to my mom because my mom passed at the end of 2022.
Sorry, man.
Um, yeah, I got my brother and I sold their house, so I used some of that money to pay for a lot of the international travel. And I did it as like a final dedication because last year was actually supposed to be a year off, but I wanted to do something like at a world level, like as a tribute. So it was completely like a personal record. Like I
Sure.
wasn't doing it was more or less just like to honor my mom.
I love that. I
You know,
mean, that's really cool, man. The fact that you did that. Cause I think, like you said, I can't
yeah,
imagine, my parents still together at this point. They're in their late 60s. So it's like, you never know. Like I lost both my grandfathers and stuff like that somewhat soon. And I've had some cousins, and uncles have cancer diagnosis this year. So it's like, you never know, man. Um,
It's tough though, because I lost both my parents within like 2 years of each
oh
other.
yeah,
So
dude.
I lost my dad in 2020, and then I lost my mom in 2022.
Oh,
And the Fayetteville Ultra that year, the one that I talked about where I really jammed my hip up, that was actually the last time I saw her alive.
oh,
Like, and I had no idea that, I had no idea, I mean, she was, her health had never been that great, but she stayed out in that hot sun the entire time. And like, it was the very first time she ever saw me like do a Spartan race. Sorry, but
you're fine.
she was like, yeah, she was like, like she didn't know like the magnitude and like the effect that I was having on people just carrying the flag the entire time. And like it meant so much to her that like just everybody knew who I was, and they came up and like just told her how awesome and like like it was like the proudest she ever was. And but
Man, that's
it,
incredible.
it, it was kind of on the rough side though, because her birthday was in September. And like her birthday was September 2nd, so she had foster kids and everything. They were older, but I called her to wish her a happy birthday, and I didn't get an answer, and I got a text message back saying that she was in the hospital. So I'm like, all right, well, can I talk to her? And the guy texted back. He's like, hey, she's in a lot of pain. She doesn't really want to talk right now. So I called the hospital up, and like I finally got a hold of somebody the next day. So September 2nd was a Friday. So this is Saturday morning. So the hospital got back to me, and they said to me, "Oh yeah, we had to move her to like ICU. She's doing okay. She just has a little bit of sepsis." And I'm like, "Sepsis isn't good." So I called my brother, and I'm like, "Hey, my brother used to be a physical therapist too, though. So he's got like, so we're both into fitness and stuff." So I finally got a hold of him. He was hiking in the mountains somewhere. I'm like, "Hey, I think we should go down there. This doesn't sound good." So he lives in Boston. I live on Long Island. So like he booked a flight, and then I drove down there. So as I'm driving down there, I get a call from my uncle. He's like, "What's going on with your mom?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, the hospital just called me. They said they said they have her on a ventilator and everything, and she's
Oh,
not doing well. We're talking about a DNR." So I get down there, and she's in a ventilator, pretty much just gasping for air. And they talked to my brother and I to see what we wanted to do about it. And we both agreed though, because like when I saw her legs were like waxed. There was nothing, like they were just completely dead. Her kidneys had already shut down. Like they would have had to airlift her to another hospital, put her on dialysis, and since she was already deep into sepsis, like she probably wouldn't have like like had any memories or anything left. She just would have been a vegetable. And like we just knew she didn't want that. So, we decided to, they just sedated her, and we just sat there and waited. And, you know,
oh. I mean, I can't imagine having to go through that. I mean,
so,
and it happened so fast. It seemed like too, like you said, she wasn't in great health, but just
no, but she hung on. She was just breathing heavy and gasping for air for about like an hour and a half
oh,
until it
that's
finally,
oh
it was
yeah, I
tough.
can't imagine. I can't imagine. And yeah, I mean, I'm just I mean, looking back now, I mean, I'm super happy in a way that she got to go to that race because I think what you probably don't even, I mean, you have these people coming up to you, and obviously she didn't realize the impact you're making, but I don't even think you realize the impact you're making on as many
A lot of
people.
times I don't though, because it gets hard sometimes though, because like I mean I work for a gym, so like naturally I'm surrounded. They probably won't even see this, so like I'm like surrounded by like a bunch of egos and stuff like that. But then so I don't really have like too many friends locally. I'm pretty much like a loner. I do things on my own and everything. And then I go to a race, and then I'm constant, people come up to me all the time thanking me for what I do and all this other stuff. And a lot of times I don't even know how to respond because I'm not used to it. Like working for a gym, you're like an ant. They step all over you. It's
Yeah.
like even even after that weekend, like after my mom passed, I shot a group text out to the owner of my gym, the fitness manager, and the general manager, and then I contacted all my clients to let them know I'd be out. 2 days later, I had this one, because you always have like that one client that's a little obsessive, whatever.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she was in tears at the front desk because I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I was, I had both the manager and the owner contact me on back-to-back days, accusing me of not contacting my
Oh,
people when I literally told them I did.
dude.
And then when I did all those 100-mile events and stuff like that, they hung up a banner and everything for me. They picked that week to take the banner off the wall,
Oh
like to
my
remodel.
God. Are you, dude,
So, yeah, like
dude.
it was just, yeah. And then I don't know. Well, they're like bodybuilders or whatever. Yeah, so I mean, I'm still there. I mean, the only reason I kind of hung around though was because I needed like some extra income,
Yeah.
like while traveling though. But I'm actually like trying to like move my stuff more to the internet now, just so I can, you know,
Have more flexibility, more control. That's what I've been doing. Like I was a personal trainer full time since 2016. I worked at Equinox for only a short period of time. And then
yeah.
I left Equinox after a few months. I got an opportunity to manage and train at a Fitness Together studio. So I managed it and then trained there about 20 hours a week. And then my wife got a job in Connecticut. So I bounced around a lot, man. I did a year in transition because we moved and I had to find something. I was a fitness coordinator at a college for a year, and then that was an interim position, so it only lasted a year. That was at Berkshire Community College. And then after that, I had an opportunity to work at ESPN on their corporate wellness team. So I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
cool. So this would be kind of cool. Like I get to, see the analysts and meet the people. And, like Ryan, if you're a football guy, like Ryan Clark was there working all the time. Like, so it was kind of cool to see all this. And it was corporate wellness. So it wasn't like a lot of one-on-one clients. I kind of like a little more group
Kind of
stuff.
like doing that thing.
Yeah, it was more wellness based. So like a lot of like you only worked with people at the corporate center. So it was like everyone's high stress, high pressure. So like, they were working on a lot of mindfulness and like sleep, and like we did like small classes and just worked the floor, and I oversaw the floor, and then if someone had questions, I'd put them through some stuff and help them. And it was cool, and then COVID hit, and then I never turned into like more than a 30-hour a week position because I got furloughed after a year. So I left there. And then after that, spun my wheels for a while, went through a bunch of like anxiety, stress, kind of like trying to figure out what I want to do. Cause I was making like
Yeah.
plus figures in Boston. And then I left my job. My wife took a job, and then I was making like 30, 40 grand in like stress. Cause I thought I was like giving up everything. Um, so it was for my wife, but it was like weird because I had that relationship issue where I was like going back and forth with her, of like I almost was bitter towards her, even though I made the call to leave my job because I was climbing my career for like years, and then I took a huge step back. But I get the corporate side for sure. And then after that, I took a job at a local gym. It's like a hybrid. Have you ever heard of Health Tracks?
No.
Okay, so it's like a corporate franchise gym, but they bought out this place and they put their systems into like a local gym. So it wasn't exactly them, but it was. But it was corporate, dude. Like, so you get treated a little bit like there's some. I'm not going to stereotype it, but like corporate gyms are tough because there are really good people that work within them, but there's always
Yeah.
like a bottom dollar. It's a little less of a family vibe and more of like a corporate numbers vibe, and that's what
So
became tough.
my gym. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that just became tough. So like I was there for 2 years, and I eventually went on my own. Long story short, this past November, I went on my own, trained in person about 10 hours a week. And I was trying to scale my online business, and I was growing month over month since November. And this past month I took a huge hit, and it was just like 7 people fell off right away. And it was like, boom, $2,000 of automated revenue gone. And you're like, that's the hard part, is like, there's so much potential to build an online, and you have a great platform. I feel like because you've accomplished so much, you could definitely do it. And you could definitely leverage yourself, especially if you get even put more effort into the business skill side of it, which I don't know you well enough to know what you have, but like all the knowledge you've accomplished in psychology and certifications and training, even tapping a bit of that into the business marketing and branding side, you'll crush it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you were gonna say something. I don't know if you remember what you're gonna say.
Yeah, no, so I mean the gym I'm at now though, I mean it is independently owned.
That's
because
good.
yeah, because I worked at Golds before this. I knew all these guys from Golds. It was basically like my former general manager. He went out and bought. He bought. He's not the building owner. He's the business owner. So he went out and bought a gym, and then the fitness manager was my old fitness manager, and the general manager was an old manager. For everyone was from Golds. So yeah, like the first couple of years, it had that like local like vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like the community,
Absolutely. Community,
everything
family.
was good. But then out of nowhere, something happened, like where all of a sudden we just became faces on a uniform,
Yeah.
and it changed, and it was like a big paradigm shift, like. Yeah, because we used to have like a community wall. So like the logo, gym logo was on the wall, and you had the members all sign the wall.
I love it.
So it was actually cool. But then like I mean, we've went through God knows how many renovations. So and like what I mean by renovations though is you can't figure out like a look. So one minute the walls are orange, the next minute they're green, the next minute they have like a wooden siding, like
The
So I
branding's a
don't think,
mess. Yeah.
and we don't really have a niche. I think he's still trying to market to everybody, but at the same time though, like we ended up going from being like our individual personalities to just like faces on a uniform. And I noticed it last year though, too, especially because I went to Australia to do a race, and my manager goes to me. He's like, "Hey, well, if you're gonna go away for that long, have somebody cover your sessions while you're gone." And it's like my people don't want anyone else training them. I mean, they train with
They
me.
they want those
Like
sessions turning over, dude. They don't want
yeah,
that's they want the burn through
really,
rate.
they weren't even numbers driven because when we came back from COVID, I don't even remember what my totals were because I asked them what my sales totals were because I was just crushing it, and they couldn't give me a number because they didn't want to be too sales oriented. But I must have sold like $30,000 in training at least like within that first week. Like I mean, because I was just signing up like huge packages and stuff
That's
like that.
impressive.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a very personal trainer friendly gym because of where the area is located
You have a
at.
lot of leads coming through traffic. Yeah.
Well, it also has that personal training type culture where like you don't really because like when you work corporate style gyms or any style gym for that matter, you end up doing the door to door approach where you're going and talking to people on the treadmill. Hey, how's your workout going? Yeah, my name's Billy. How you doing? What's your name? Oh yeah. What are your goals? All right. Well, how's it working for you?
Going
And then
great.
after a while, you start running out of things to say. So like, hey, are you bored on that treadmill? Would you like to try out a different workout?
That
So you end
sales
up,
spiel. Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
so you end up with that door to door approach, and then you end up talking to so many people that like, well, I can remember when I was at like New York Sports Club was very like
Yeah.
that. Like
I had a Boston sports club I was at. I worked
yeah,
out at.
it's the same thing. It's all Town Sports International. It's the same company.
Yep.
But you had those nap sheets where you had to, write name, aim, progress. You had to get a whole list of people. And I got to the point where I talked to so many people. Like I went and prospected this one woman, and she goes to me, she's like, "Yeah, you already talked to me. You actually have me booked for Wednesday night."
Oh, that's awkward.
Like,
That's
oh, that's
awkward.
I guess and then I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh, I guess you're not showing up for your session.
Yeah. But dude,
But
that's tough because I get the concept of it, right? I get it. But there's a fine line between like, I got advice from a friend. He was like helping me. He's going to help me market. I'm going to start running ads. And I'm kind of my niche I've been trying to target instead of just like, I've been so broad. It's like everyone wants to lose fat. They want to build muscle. They want to get a little healthier, so on, right? But I was targeting more of kind of the ambitious gym goer that already works out consistently that wants to take ABC to the next
yeah,
level.
you already
Or
have the drive.
yeah, exactly. Or like in the scheme of me and you, I'm still newer into the OCR community, but I've been doing it enough where I've done enough races and I'm confident based on my strength conditioning background, how to program to get people good at getting into it or scaling to a decent level. And so it's kind of like the ambitious gym goer wants to it's stuck losing body fat, wants to get stronger, wants to get faster, or the newly entered OCR runner that wants to get better. So like that's kind of the niche I'm going to try to market to, but it's also hard because my gut is like I used to be the bodybuilding guy for a decade. I used to be the fat loss guy for a decade. So they all play intertwined, but it's hard because most of the community that follow me, it's a little different content that I'm putting out now. It's very performance based. It's not like general pop based, which I get less interaction with, but moving forward, that's the community I want to work with more. Cause also just like, they're more serious. You get longer retention on clients. They work harder. The results are better. They pay a little more, but it's hard to make that transition. At least it has been for me so
That's the
far.
one thing about like coaching versus training. You know, like people typically hire a personal trainer because they know they're not going to go to the gym without you. You know,
Right.
like you almost have to. You're almost like a babysitter.
It
Whereas
was
like
half therapist too.
yeah, you just listen to problems all day long, and then you have to like decompress before and after a while, when you start absorbing enough of that, before you know, you start complaining all the time, and then it's
Yeah.
like and then like when you don't really have like a friend circle and that's all you're around, after a while you start becoming negative yourself, and you're like, oh
Toxic.
wow, the job itself is actually really toxic. Where like as if you're in like a coaching environment, you have people that want to get better, they just need direction.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes they might need a kick in the ass or whatever, but at the same time, though, you can depend on them. Whereas like with your average personal training, not that if anyone's listening, I'm being whatever,
You're
but
still there.
like
You're still working. You haven't left and you enjoy it.
so, I try to like I've always done this with my clients though too though. Like I've tried to been like sort of like an in between, like in between a trainer and a coach.
Yeah.
It's like because also too though, like even for those people out there that are trainers, it's actually a wiser decision to like if you're going to do the in-person stuff, to have like 30 clients that come in once a week versus 10 clients that come in 3 times a week. Because now if you got a couple people go on vacation, it's like whatever, have fun.
It hurts.
Where if you have like 5 people go on vacation, now you're down 15 sessions, and it's like, oh, all right, how am I paying my rent this month?
Dude, that hurts. It hurts. Like I think I'm on that point now where when I left, I'm in this between. I just talked with my wife because I took a big hit, like a couple $1,000s right off the top last month. And I want to grow my online. I want to grow MMB performance coaching. That's my
Yeah,
business. And it's the term personal trainer you talked about too. It's like, I never like thinking of myself as like a trainer because I think of myself in a big box gym, sitting through hour sessions, and just that's who I am, that entity. Where if I look at myself as more of like a performance coach, a nutrition coach, like something like that, it has like it's all it's all involved in it. And it's tough because like I think personal trainer gets a stereotype. You could be a personal trainer at Planet Fitness making $15 an hour, and you get boxed into the same thing when you have 70 certifications, degrees, experience, and it's tough because that's the separation that I'm trying to get to. And I think that's part of the marketing and branding and that you have to deliver. And it's tough. It's tough, dude, because that's what the transition I'm trying to make. And I've thought about like taking a 9 to 5 that's in like a corporate wellness, get a salary, get benefits, and then build my online brand how I want, but not have the stress of like, because it's stressful, like when money's
yeah,
coming
no,
in,
it,
coming
it
out.
definitely is. I mean, I've been out of the military since 2012, and I finally got guidance on like getting like VA money and stuff like that. So that got cleared for me about a year ago. So
That's got to
that
help.
that took a little bit of tension off, because at least even if I go a couple weeks without pay, I got the money to pay for my rent. So like I'm not going to be out on the street, but at the same time though, dude, like when you're in survival mode like that, I remember I had times when I first started as a trainer, we had the manual appointment books. The one bright side about where I work now though is I track all my own appointments though, so like I
That's good.
literally have my appointment book on me 24/7, whereas when I was at Gold's it was at the gym. So I would literally be like running through the pages, being like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like just counting my hours for the week. And then I would get text messages of people dropping, and I'm like, shit, okay. So I would cross out, cross out, cross out. Okay, let me count that again. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, and then see, when I first started as a trainer, I didn't really know too much about the business side of things.
Yeah.
So when I got to the point where I was doing like 25, 30 sessions a week, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to build anything anymore. But that's a problem because it was after the summer, and half of my clients at that point were school teachers. So the way some school districts work is they'll give them a lump sum at the beginning of the summer because they're not working,
Right.
and then they don't until they come back. So, like, especially if you have younger teachers, a lot of them are irresponsible. So they'll blow all their money at the beginning of the summer, and then by the time the summer ends, they haven't had a paycheck all summer. So, they still allow, like in those type of scenarios, I think they still allow them to collect unemployment throughout the summer, and then when they come back to work in the
It's
fall, they get paid
interesting
again.
because I have three family members that are teachers, and then my brother-in-law made the mistake. He's a PE teacher, so you can decide to take 12. You can go 12 months of biweekly paychecks, or you can take the same income over 9 or 10 months. I forget what it is. So you get the same income, but it's just broken up differently. And like you said, then you get to a
Okay.
point so he accidentally signed the contract, and 9 or 10 months took his full year salary. And then all of a sudden those months came, and he's like, for 2 months, he's like, I don't have any money.
So it was crazy though, because after the summer was over, I was good, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had like 5 clients that were school teachers, so all gone.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, I literally just lost like 12 sessions a week. It's like, what do I do? So at that point, it's like, it's like, okay, I have to replace all that, and like, well, as well as I do, it's hard to build up a training business.
Dude, it's brutal.
Like,
The average trainer, I just saw this thing, Bedros Koulian, Bedros, I think it's
yeah.
Bedros. So he made a post and he was talking about training, just building up training business. It was just because he's a marketer, brand guy, sales guy. But he was saying the average personal trainer lasts 8 months after they try to go full time. They quit in about 8 months because either it's just the turnover's too high, they're not good at sales, personality isn't there. Dude, it's a grind.
Yeah.
It takes 3 to 6 months if you're a good coach to build up a sustainable business.
Well, even when you have it sustainable, like things happen. So like you
Yeah.
always have to have a list on standby, or you have to have an additional source of income where you're marketing supplements, or where
I had
like
17 online clients, and I gained 2 and then lost 8. So it was like I was a net loss, but like basically lost 8 people in a month, which my online I charge about, it ranges from $200 to $300 a month, but it's like that's a huge hit. Like that's hard. And then just like to your point, like those are, and then you sign someone up. Mine's a 3-month commitment, and you can project out. But then I had 2 people early last year that were like in a 3-month contract. You're a month and a half in, they're not taking it serious. They're not communicating with me, and they just stop. And it's like, you're not going to chase them down, but there is an agreement in place. But still, it's like, it sucks. So it's tough. You got to finding the right people that are really ready to take it serious. And is it a mix of what you're charging? Is it a mix of the presentation, how you present to them, the trust you build in that period of time, delivering the results, like systems in place? There's so much that goes into it to be a really good coach, and keep them accountable. And the online's a different world for sure, because they're not
yeah.
there with you.
Well, this isn't really like personal training though, but I had well, the books themselves aren't, but yeah, are you familiar with Alex Hormozy?
Yeah, I love that. So I bought 2 of them recently.
Okay, so
The
a
hundred
hundred
million
million.
dollar, $100 million.
Yeah, so I got both of those books. Now, if you scan that QR code, he literally has video lectures of the entire book, like PowerPoint notes and everything. It's like formally set up. But like he gets into like everything you need to know in those books on like how to like market, how to advertise. I'm like halfway through. So Offers was first, and then Leads is like the second book, like volume 2. Volume 3, I think, is supposed to be Sales Tactics, but he
I
hasn't
bought
released
them
it yet.
out of order. So I got through halfway through Leads, and then I saw the other one. I accidentally bought them out of order. And you know what the
Well,
hardest part is? What?
Offers like how to put together like a business plan, and then Leads is like how to market and get people.
Okay. Okay. So I got to go backtrack a little because I got through halfway through Leads so far, and it
So
all
if you
makes
go to
sense.
his site, he sets them all up as like online course type things.
Yeah.
And there's no email opt-in, there's no nothing. They're just like 30, 40-minute videos of him breaking down step by step. Like, yeah, because like with me though, like I read a lot, but at the same time though, like when you read, you only like retain like a certain percentage of it.
Yeah.
But if I see him go over the same information and point it out on PowerPoint slides just because he's explaining it, I kind of understand it better.
More senses. See, hear, like you got more sense. Like I listen to books because I don't do well reading. I just get distracted so
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, he actually said that in his books though too. He says you
Both,
should
right?
read while listening to the audiobook. Yeah, because I mean you have three main styles of learning. You have your visual, your auditory, and your kinesthetic. So like that's why they also tell you too to take notes though, because the act of you like writing something down ingrains it into your brain, even if you've never reviewed it though, because you're hitting that kinesthetic node. You know what I'm saying though? So
Yeah.
like if you're looking at something, like if you're reading, that's more visual. If you're listening, that's auditory, and then if you're writing, it's kinesthetic. Especially if you have like it on video on a screen or something like that. So like a lot of times with things like that, you only have to study it once or twice versus constantly reading the same stuff over and over again. So it just kind of it hits all three like learning, styles of learning at the same time though. So it makes the information more retainable.
The thing I think I need to focus on is I'm a harshest critic. I'm assuming you're probably the same way.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we all. I
yeah.
mean,
So the thing I struggle with is he'll lay it out and then you want it to be a hybrid. Like we all know perfectionism isn't a good thing. Like to
Oh
it's
yeah.
so, but it's like he'll list it out, right? All right, if you reach out to 100 people a day, every single day, if you do this every single day, every single day, if you do this every single day and you post if you just do those things every day, eventually it's a matter of time before things start to go in your right direction and things work out. The hardest part is I think, which I haven't done really well with recently because I lose a few clients, right? You get in your head a little, an injury
Yeah, well,
flares up.
that's all I'm smart though, because like I mean, no matter. See, I'm good at all the physical stuff though. Like, I mean, I can, because I'm about to do my 100th ruck in a row.
Yeah, I
But
mean
like,
you're
if
grinding.
you have to be like, okay, you need to call like 20 people 100 days in a row. I'll get a couple days into it and be like, all right, I'm just gonna throw my ruck on and go for a ruck.
Yeah, no, I'm dude, I'm a hundred same
And
boat.
it's
I need to go get a lift in. I'm just gonna go hip hang out or do 100 pull-ups. So it's like I'm in the
that's
same
the hard
boat.
part, like translating the workout ethic into the
It's
administrative type ethic, and that's where it gets difficult. That's why like most of these guys though, like I mean, they all do it in the beginning, but eventually they just hire people to do it.
right. And based on your personality, you're probably somewhere like too, is like it gives you anxiety. Like, sitting here like cold messaging
Oh yeah,
people and then adding
no,
people and talking to people. It's just that's the hard part for me is like content wise, I'm fine with doing content. I just like I'll get up, it's just like anybody else. Like, then I'll create a content plan. I'll sit here and I'll use ChatGPT, help me create a goddamn content plan, whole thing out, all ready to go. Next month, I just got to make it and do it. And then, like you said, a weekend, I have a bad couple days and I'm like, fuck this. And I'm like, I'm over here and I'm going to go do that, you know?
I'll sit there and like record the same video like 50 times and
Yeah.
like
Dude, you should
I'm
see
at,
my
but I'm actually
Google
better
Docs.
like doing stuff like live versus like recording, because like recording you try to perfect it too much, where live it's just like okay, whatever, here's a post.
Well, it's like this. I'm going to upload this whole thing once we're done. I have one more question I want to do for you after this, regarding kind of some things for the future. But like, I'm going to upload this whole thing into Opus Clip, and Opus Clip will just chop this up into like 25 different clips for me. Like, and it'll take the conversation. It's all AI. So it'll be like, cool. Like I have like 25 clips and then I'll pick the favorite ones and they'll seem legit because we're just like having a conversation basically. But then I'll sit here in a camera and overanalyze like my facial expression didn't have enough energy in one of those clips.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh, these will be fine, but like it's just funny because I'm recording and I'm like, so my buddy's running ads for me, wants to run next week. My wife's like, it's been 3 weeks, you still haven't ran them, but he wants someone to video me running and be like, all right, it's literally like, are you ready to train for your first obstacle course race? If so, my name's Jeff Molten. I've been a trainer for and it's like, if you this and this and this, click the link below. And like me ranting to you on it probably would be better than me just running in front of a camera on the road, but it's like, how much of it is perfectionism and how much of it is just like, stop thinking, check the box off. Stop thinking, check the box off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hard part about like any of these guys. I forgot the exact percentage. I think they said you're ready when you're about 30% ready, or whatever the
Something
percentage
like that.
was.
Yeah.
It was like something low though, because like once because if you wait till you're 100% ready, you'll never be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll sit
Yeah,
there, have all the
those
best
guys.
ideas in the world.
Like, I think Bedros Koulian was one of the people was the one that said it though. Like you can't be afraid to make a fool out of yourself.
Yeah.
I think it
I
was
love
him.
Andy Frisella too. I don't know but Andy
Yeah,
Frisella is my dude too. I love Andy.
I actually got him to follow my Instagram.
You're like, let's go.
Well, it was it because I tag him in everything because I want to get on his show. But like
We got to figure out a way to get you on. If he can take, if you just
he
look at,
follows me, but he stopped interacting with my stuff. I think he's tired of me tagging him. But it was my 450th race with the flag, and
he's a big
I posted
patriot.
the picture of it, and all of a sudden I see him pop up as a follower, and then he leaves a comment. It's 450. Fuck yeah, bro.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's the thing. Like, he's such a patriot, dude. And like when COVID was going down and all that stuff, like, I love it. Like he's just the dude that he's real. He's not fake. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He's not scared of being judged. He doesn't like he's true to who he is. You know,
Yeah, well,
and
that's the thing. We need more people like that, to be honest. I mean, I'm
absolutely.
guilty of it sometimes too. Like sometimes I'll sugarcoat things or whatever, but I'm trying to like kind of break that habit.
Well, I think everyone's scared of judgment. Everyone doesn't want to be judged and criticized and like looked at differently. And I think we all, to an extent, no matter how strong you are, everyone is a little bit worried about getting judged. But I
Oh
think
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
who said it. Yeah, I don't know who said it, but it's like, who was it, man? I don't know who it was. But in regard to like, he's like, I don't let anyone's opinion, I don't worry about anyone's opinions or judgments. I don't let them bother me unless it's someone that I actually like would actually go to or value their opinion for. So like if they don't mean anything to me and I don't
yeah.
value their actual opinion, then I could care less of what they say. And he's like, once I learned like the haters, the people that judge you and all that stuff, like if you wouldn't ask them for advice, then why are you worried about what they're saying? It's
Well,
like,
because it's like Andy. It's like Andy says. Anybody that's doing better than life than you is not going to judge you.
exactly. And if they do, then there's an issue. But like most people that hate on you, give you shit, it's like, dude, they're just jealous because they can't get up and run a 5K without complaining. Like they're like, oh, he's on steroids. He doesn't get it. The amount of shit that people will give you excuses of how you're accomplishing what you do. He doesn't like. Are you in a relationship at all or anything?
No, not right now.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, he's single. He doesn't have this. He doesn't do that. He's using steroids. It's easy for him. He was a murderer. It's like, nah, dude. Those are
Yeah,
excuses
they
because you
don't.
are
They don't any of like the backstory either, because
right.
like
Like what you just told me, like
like
the shit you went through.
training was 13 years old, and it's
How many thousands and thousands and thousands of workouts and hours have you put in? It's like,
oh
and
yeah,
it's just also like, it's just, yeah, those are the people like, yeah, it's so easy. It's a huge percentage of social media. And the people that are going to hate on you, the people that are going to throw shade are the people like Gary Vee said this once. And I loved when he said it. He's
yeah.
like, don't let those people get mad at you. Don't get mad at those people. Feel bad for those people because those people are so insecure and happy with their own life that they have the time and energy to take the time to hate on you and say something negative. So next time someone hates on you, says something negative to your social, just go into the chat and say, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you're having such a bad day. Like it's just because they're so miserable with
That's actually a good way to spin it.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
because you have to be pretty upset and miserable in your own life to some type of fashion to actually bring someone else down to make you feel better.
yeah.
Like
There's
so
if you ever like listen to like a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger's old stuff, he used to be really good at spinning insults.
oh, he was so good.
Like it's like there was one where like somebody says to him, "Oh, I never ever want to look like you," and he's like, "Don't worry, you never will."
Yeah. I've said that sarcastically to people. Like I said it to
Yeah,
client before, like joking around. Like I had a 48-year-old woman who's like, we're doing a body weight lunge, like stationary lunge. She's like, I'm like, this will work
yeah.
your quad. You get a little stretch into the glute, you're getting deep range of motion. And she's like, well, I don't want a big butt. I'm like, don't worry, you're not going to get one. Like it's not going to happen. Or like, I don't want to lift weights and be like you. And I'm like, don't worry. I've tried my entire life to look like me and I still haven't, you know, it's like, it's just not happening. So I get it though. For you, dude, moving forward, one of the big last things I want to ask is like, what's your plans moving forward now? Like with the hip, how it is, you're doing the PT and stuff like that. Like, what's your next? You got the ruck going on, but is there anything else you're
So
looking to do?
So right now I have a hip surgery date for like May 30th. So
Okay.
I'm like kind of like doing like the go out with a bang type thing. So I'm doing whatever I can until then. So I just got done with a stretch. I mean, I didn't run it. I rucked it all, but I did so after the Atlanta trifecta weekend, I did that with a ruck. I did 11 marathons in 11 states in 11 days.
I
It
love
took me
that.
like about 9 to 9.5 hours, with the longest one being 10 hours to finish each one of them.
It's like a hybrid
And
Iron Cowboy vibe.
yeah, well, that's actually I'm trying to come up with something in that style too.
Yeah.
Like maybe with the ruck though. So I'm trying to kind of come up with a theme. Like this will obviously be like after I get my surgery and everything.
Yeah. You'll be a new
What
man.
if, yeah, so what I was thinking is maybe what if I could do something where like let's say I rucked a 50K in 50 states in 50 days or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That would be cool. I mean, it's anything like it's got to teeter very hard where people hear it and they're like, what the fuck? Like they
Yeah.
got like you almost need you want to draw that type of response because like I feel like it's hard enough to do one in one day, and I think that's what the feat is, right? It's when someone's like an Ironman is impossibly hard. How many can you do in a row? A marathon's really hard. How many can you do in a row? And 100 mile is hard. How many can you do in like a row like that?
Those
So
type of things, that's where it all becomes mental fortitude though, because like,
yeah,
and not only that, it's just monotony. Because even with those 11 and 11 days that I just did, and that's the most I've ever done in like a solid consecutive stretch. Because I also did that Spartan trifecta weekend, so I went in 13 days in a row. I covered 313 miles
it's insane.
with a 35-pound pack and the American flag.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's honestly crazy.
There's this company out there called Mainly Marathons. They're pretty much like designed for like your 50 state crowd, but they'll have events like there's another one coming up I want to do in mid-May where it's 8 and 8 days. It's called the Prairie Series because it pretty much spans from Oklahoma up to like North Dakota.
Cool.
But yeah, so all the races like you have to drive like 2 3 hours to get to each one. They're in bordering states, but they'll do like multiple series per year like that. The one that's more local to us, they have the Independence one, and
Yep.
I did that one in 2017. But I did that with the 50K option, so I did 5 50Ks in 5 days, and then I connected 2 weekends to it, so I actually did like 9 in 9 days. So I did the Jersey Spartan Ultra, followed by the Iron Master 50K, followed by the 550Ks in 50 days. Then I did the Wawayanda 50 miler, and then I finished it with the Long Island
Crazy,
Marathon.
dude. Your memory is
Well,
incredible. Your memory is
here,
incredible.
I got spreadsheets on everything, and like I like this is I mean because this is what I do all day. I like like if I get bored, I'm dangerous to myself because I'll just think of like little epic level things I can do, and then
Yeah.
I'll start making and I'll just find stuff like you know it's like wow I didn't even know this existed. Like
My
I
wife,
just
it's the thing. She was asking me for worlds. Like she's like, I'm doing worlds this year again. I got 60. I want to get 80 miles. That's my goal. Um, and
Yeah, 60 was my best. I did it twice. I did 60 in Vegas and again in Atlanta.
yeah, I'm coming for I want my silver goddamn fucking vest. That's what I want. So I'm gonna be charging for 80. That'll
Silver's 75, right? Yes.
silver
Silver's
75. Yep. Yep. So that's my
yeah.
goal. I want to get that, but I wanted to do more race this year, but with the business kind of, trying to get under my feet, like, and we already committed some stuff about renovation for the house, like bathroom and all this and money. And like, I don't want it to, if I was single, I'd be living more of a life like you. like,
Yeah.
but it's
Oh,
just
believe me,
like,
I'm like the last person anyone wants to be in a relationship right now though, because I'm going so broke doing all these things.
yeah,
But
you just need a
I think
ride or die that gets it, dude. You just need a ride or die that gets it.
but also too though, like I mean, this could also because like once I can't do this anymore, I can get up and talk about it. So like they can't. I mean, so like with this expo coming up this weekend,
Oh, yeah, you're talking. I forgot because I have a booth there. That's just cool. So
well,
I'll
I
definitely
was
have to see you.
originally going to do the Atlanta Tough Mudder. I actually registered for it and everything. And then Steve Bacon is his name. He contacted me,
Yep.
and he was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a VIP pass. I think you're a great ambassador to the brand. I'd love to have you here." And then I started reading through the flyer, and it said guest speakers on there. So then I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, it says that you have guest speakers. Well, do you have a spot for me?" I just kind of threw it out there. And he's just like, absolutely. So he's giving me like a little 10-minute block, and like the shorter blocks are harder.
Because you want to,
Yeah,
because me and you could, I feel like, go on for hours, right? Because we're
yeah.
just
Like
getting paid.
because there's a lot of stuff I didn't even like touch on, like how I got into the ruck, how I got into the flag. Like
Right. Well, I'm down if you want to do another too in the future. Like,
we could always do another. Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't
because I
matter.
think it'll be good. Like, keep this, we're at an hour and a half. Like, most of mine are usually an hour, but like with all your stuff, like we can do like part one, part two, kind of, you know what I mean?
And I'm sure a lot of the dead space, like us talking about business and stuff, that's probably just going to be cut.
Well, I'm gonna
Maybe.
leave. So I'm gonna leave it all in, but like,
Okay.
yeah, like I'm not a big. Because here's the thing, dude. I am like, I think there's value in all that, and I think like
Yeah.
people. I think there's value like in everything we talk about. It all applies to different aspects, and everyone that listens, it triggers different things for different people, you know. And I
Yeah,
think
because
like that.
I mean, I think it might be a good thing to leave though too, though, because there are a lot of like coaches and trainers that do this stuff regularly too, like as far as
Yeah,
like doing bars and
or about like
you know,
balancing life, dude. Like balancing life, career, finance. Like I think they even learning about you. Like obviously, if people that listen to me.
because that's always what
Sorry, dogs just went wild.
because well, I'm also like a legionnaire for first form.
Yep.
So like, I mean, I don't really do well with it though, but like if I have a client that wants a supplement, I'll sell them the supplements, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't like to go out of my way to kind of push it, but I'll wear the shirt sometimes. But like they're actually really good though, because they have like tons of free education that comes with it, especially like with social media marketing and everything. And one of the weaknesses that I have is I don't really have like a life outside of like working out or anything.
Right.
So like a lot of the people that so like a lot of the people that follow like your athletes, your brand ambassadors, your influencers, they want to know that there's like a person behind the workout guy.
Absolutely.
So they want to see pictures of like you with your wife going out to dinner, and like you like with your dog, and like because it shows that you're a human being
Yeah.
and not just
Well, that
mindless fitness.
relates, right? Because I think
Yeah,
how many people are
it's something
intimidated to talk to you?
yeah. And like, what was me though? Like, I mean, like all I really do is work out, and I'm not, and like that's the hard part. So like, a lot of people don't relate to me,
Yeah.
but like, I'm also one of the most approachable people on the planet. But at the same time, though, like a lot of people just don't relate because they think I'm just like a guy that works out all the time, and
Well,
it's
this
just,
right here, this picture, bro, you're a fucking badass, bro. Right?
oh yeah,
But people see that they're
that's
like, this dude is fucking yoked. He's intimidating. He's an ex-Marine. He's done 100-mile races. This is my first 5K. How am I supposed to ever talk to this guy? You know, but
yeah. Well,
that's
that's
the
the hard
thing,
part.
right?
Well, I mean, I kind of did that just to kind of, well, because that's one of the things like with my persona though, because I'm like the don't quit type guy.
Oh,
You know
I
what I'm
love
saying?
that picture. It's a badass picture. I love it.
Yeah, it's great for a profile image. I mean, not only that though, but I had to change it to get the blue check mark too, though, because like you have to verify with your ID in order to get the blue check.
Yeah.
So they needed like an up close picture of your face that they can reference the ID to. Because
Yep.
originally my photo was me jumping the fire at the Jersey Ultra, but my head was looking down, so they couldn't get a recognizable picture. And that's probably what prevented me from getting the free blue check, but they didn't tell me that until like I actually paid the money for it.
Right. Right. Right.
Because they don't tell you anything when it's free, but when you pay money, they're like, "Oh yeah, the only reason we didn't approve it is because we couldn't get a clear look at your face."
Like,
Because
thanks,
like
dude.
when you go to do it without paying for it, they ask for like websites and all this other stuff, like newspaper articles, whatever. So like if you Google search Billy Richards ultra running, you'll find about 20 or 30 articles on me. So like I copy and pasted all those in, and I'm like, why am I, because there's people with less followers than me that got like, the free blue check.
Right.
So yeah, I know you're probably doing that right now.
Doing what?
No, like if you Google search Billy Richards ultra running, you'll find like a ton of stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Billy Richards is like a very common name, so if you do it by itself, you probably won't find anything though. But like if you add the ultra running tag, like like I've
Yeah.
gotten a
Ultra
lot.
Running Magazine. And then you got like Instagram, Facebook, Airborne. And then, yeah, it's just kind of.
Active.com. Fitness.
SpartanRace.com. Yeah. So on and so forth. Patch.com, sign up, ultra sign up, Billy Butcher's results, YouTube clip. And then it's like, active.com, like so on and so forth, like down the list.
Like like Spartan got me a lot of those contacts too, though. Like they, like they were really they've been really good to me, like as far as like pushing my name out there and everything. So
I love it, dude.
like they were the ones they introduced me to, and it just so happened that the chief content editor or the chief content officer or whatever for Muscle and Fitness magazine, he's been trying to finish the death race for years, and he saw that I finished it. So so that's what got me into like Muscle and Fitness.
That's awesome.
Then well, Runner's World was just like somebody following a trail running group in Facebook. They found the three of us, and then he interviewed us over the phone and then wrote up the article and everything, and then all the pictures that he put up there were and then also to the American Legion found me off of Facebook.
That's so cool. It's so cool, dude. Your journey's awesome.
Yeah, so with the American Legion, the guy came out, and this was right after my shin injury. So the race he interviewed me at was the Eagle Up Ultra, and the Eagle Up Ultra is a 24-hour race. So with a bad shin, I had to somehow pull off 100 miles in under 24 hours. So I did it with like about 15 minutes to spare. But I gave him the information. He interviewed my physical therapist and everything, and like a few other people. And then all of a sudden, I open up Facebook one day and I'm getting tagged in stuff. And I look, and he put me on the cover of it. So I got on the cover of the August 2019 issue of the American Legion magazine. So anybody that's a member of the American Legion got that magazine.
That's awesome.
So I mean that was just so cool, because I had people from the gym. Hey, I saw this on my dad's kitchen table. You're famous. I'm like, wow.
That's so cool.
Magazine cover. I mean, this is so cool.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. I mean, like you said, if you grew up in sports, that's like a cool thing too. It's like every kid wants to be on a magazine cover. So
I didn't get the Muscle and Fitness cover though. But what I found cool though was that I used to read Muscle and Fitness magazine all the time as a kid. That's like half of what taught me how to like work out and stuff like that. Like, I mean, later you find out that most magazines are BS with stuff like that anyway. But like as a kid, I used to read that magazine religiously. I had a subscription to it, everything.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm looking and I'm like, wow, I'm featured in a magazine that I had a subscription to as a kid.
Right. I mean, the Ronnie Coleman's, the Jay Cutlers, like all these dudes that are just the beasts. You know what I mean?
It's like the article right before me, like, was Mario Lopez, and I'm sitting there, Muscle and Fit got kind of away from the bodybuilding stuff though, because Men's Fitness ran out of business. So
right,
I think I guess they merged with Flex. So I think Flex is doing more of the bodybuilding stuff, where
makes sense.
Muscle and Fitness still is, because obviously, because I was featured in the Olympia issue. So. Yeah, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world though, because I'm like, wow, I'm featured
You're gonna go
in
to the Olympia stage.
That they're handing out at the Olympia. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, the Olympia is cool. I've never been to the Olympia. I went to the Arnold Classic. That was awesome.
Because I did the interview way back in June of last year. So I randomly texted the guy. I'm like, hey, so when's my issue coming out? He's like, oh yeah, it's the promo copy we're handing out at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Like,
so cool. So, I mean, it's just awesome, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people read my article, but at the same time, though, it's just
so let's do this, dude. I have a client call in about 15 minutes. So
okay.
Let's do like for anyone listening, we'll do a part 2. We can schedule it either this week or next week if you want. I'll drop this half before the expo. So I think that'll be cool. Get some clips up before the expo this weekend. But yeah, dude, like I said, I'd love to keep talking, because like you said, there's still a ton we could talk about.
Oh yeah, there's so much. I mean, because I still got to get into like the ruck and the flag and
and I didn't even want to skip it. It's just like I think you said, we could go on about so much stuff. Like, so we'll definitely dive into like the whole mission behind carrying the flag. We'll definitely talk about the ruck, and we can go in a bunch of different directions if you want, like whatever direction you want to go with it. But I appreciate you talking for the last hour and a half.
One of them too.
What was that?
Like 2016, I did like a little cross country tour where gave out American flags and thank you cards to police
Yeah, I
officers.
did read about that. Yeah. So let's make some
That,
noise.
that that's definitely a big one because I mean that was probably like the thing I was most proud of. Like I literally didn't even want to come home. I'm like, I just want to keep doing this.
That's awesome, dude. That's
It
awesome. So
was,
like,
as
let's
soon as I got to as soon as I got done with the last one and I was driving home, I'm like, all right, back to bullshit.
yeah, yeah. No, dude, I like sure. Like I said, I definitely would love to talk about it. So let's schedule that. And I appreciate you coming and talking for the last like hour and 40 minutes, dude. Like, so it's been awesome. Um,
Absolutely.
it'll be good. And then you're gonna so I'll have to touch base at I have to say what's up at the expo because I'll be there this weekend too.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I
that'll be
still have to
cool.
write out. I got that's the hard part though. The shorter ones are harder than the longer ones though because you
Yeah.
have to figure out.
What
Yeah,
is
it's
the
almost
key
like
piece you want to tap into? Because like you just said, we just talked for an hour and 45 minutes and you didn't even
yeah,
talk about the flag stuff.
yeah, and I haven't even scratched the surface like with a lot of the stuff I've done. I mean, well, the 100 mile stuff is probably like the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like. So there's so much, and I want you to talk about your whatever you're most passionate about. But like the 100 milers, I think that's what like you see people do trifectas. You see people do not obviously consecutively like you, but you see people do these
I mean,
different
the
types of.
trifectas, the hardest part about those trifectas was the travel, and I was also injured when I did them, so that
Yeah,
made them much harder. But like if you're not injured, it's pretty much just be super sprint, be super sprint, be super sprint. It's
yeah,
just repetitive. It's just a
so,
matter of just like the travel and everything.
sure. So let's do
But,
this. All right, so we're gonna do part two, guys. Keep an eye out. We're gonna schedule this date, and we're gonna talk about a bunch of more stuff. And then obviously, if you're listening to this prior to the expo, Jimmy, I would say Jimmy. But you're gonna be speaking at the expo, and do you know the time or anything yet?
I have no idea. I mean, I'll get in contact with them in the next few days.
Okay, that'll be cool. Sweet. All right, man. So till next time, guys, keep being a beast, chase discomfort, and keep an eye out for the next one. See you later, guys.